Welcome back to the table. I'm so glad you're here. Today's topic is a good one. It is near and dear to my heart. It's all about the setup. Okay, remember, we have been talking about being a playmaker in our own story. You are a playmaker in your story. You have everything that it takes to move down the court and score a goal. Remember, a playmaker is someone who has the freedom to control the flow of the team's play. Someone who is involved in both the offense and the defense, and through the playmaker's confidence, that's you, your creativity, your vision, your techniques, your abilities, they all move the ball and the team into a winning position. You are a playmaker. So picking up with the theme of basketball, imagine this. It's a tied game. The clock is counting down. The opposition is putting pressure on you. You're the playmaker. You're the point guard. You're the one with the ball in your hand, and you're listening for the coach's direction. You hear him from the sidelines. He's calling out a play. You know the play. You know the playbook. You've studied it. You know it well. You have confidence in the coach's call, and you hear the play. You now translate and you communicate that play to the team on the court, and everything gets set in motion. In the meantime, opponents are coming at you. Your heart is racing. The clock is ticking. It's ticking. It's ticking. You know that there's a limited time left on the clock, but you're making wise decisions. You're letting the play set up. So you've got the ball in your hand. You're dribbling down the court, and the opponents are coming on you. They're putting pressure. You make it past half court, and you're dribbling back and forth between the top of the key and half court. Top of the key and half court. You're watching the field as the players begin to take their positions. And in the meantime, you're trying to defend the ball, and you're navigating around people, and you look up and the play isn't quite set yet, but you've got to let go of the ball. So you release it to a teammate, and the teammate knows it's not time yet. So they send it back to you, and you're dribbling. You are the playmaker. Remember, you're confident in your position. You trust the coach. You know the play. Now, what will you do? What will you do when the pressure is on, when the adrenaline is pumping, when anxiety might be creeping in because an opponent is coming so close and putting pressure and defense on you? What will you do? Will you pause for the setup to happen? Will you wait for the play to get into position before you release the ball? See, this requires such confidence in yourself. It requires trust in your coach. It requires an ability to keep the ball in your hand while the pressure is on. It requires play within the teammates and trust within your teammates as they get into position. This pause for the setup reveals your maturity as a player in the game of life. My question to you today, will you pause for the setup? Friends, this is something that we have got to grow in together. See, when we pause for the setup, we are showing the maturity of our emotional growth, our spiritual growth, our physical growth. When we pause for the setup, in this moment, the game can be won or lost in the pause. If you are to rush the game out of fear of waiting, of waiting in the pause as the setup happens. If you rush the game and you release the ball too soon, it will be stolen and taken away from you. The other team will steal the ball and take it down the court if you release the ball too soon and at the wrong time. Pause for the setup. If you wait too long out of fear of passing the ball when it's time, maybe you're fearful of releasing the ball, you will not score and win the game. Remember, the clock is ticking. The clock is ticking. What will you do? In this pause, it takes great strength and patience to wait when everything in you wants to rush. This is real life, people. This is real life when we are waiting in the pause of life for things to be set up in our life. I know for me, I have had many times when I've been moving through life and I hear God call a play. I'll never forget one particular play that he called that caught me by surprise. Is a time when I lived in Arkansas. We had lived there for over 10 years, and we knew that God was calling us out and into a different job. And we had looked for other jobs because we could sense that God was calling us out, but we didn't know when or where or how. And so we did the only thing we knew to do, which was to look. Now, did we do it all right? No, we didn't. Should we have waited a little bit longer for the pause and waited for him to bring the right thing or to say to release in that moment? Probably. But all that we knew at that moment was he was calling us out. And so we began the hunt. We began the search to find the job of our dreams. And a job came along and we thought that it was a go. We thought that this was going to work out and everything was going to move forward. And everything seemingly was moving forward. We were in the other city that we were going to move to, and we were looking for a house. And we'd told our kids, because it was that time, we'd waited as the negotiations happened between my husband and the new job. And was this really going to be a go before we let our children that were in middle school and junior high know that their lives were probably going to be changing? And so it was time for that. We let them know, and we contacted a real estate agent and put our house on the market. And we knew this was a thing. I had been up there looking for houses. My mom went with me. I was so excited. My husband was excited. And that job fell through. Let me just say, it was embarrassing. There's so many details to that story. I'll tell you one day, but I was embarrassed. I was mad. I was angry. We took our house off of the market and we began to live normal life again. And I don't remember the exact time frame of this, but I'm going to guess that it was maybe less than 6 months. My husband and I are going on with our day as if we were playing a sanctioned game of ball, which we were doing back and forth on the court, and God had been calling out plays, and we were settling in what we were doing. And out of nowhere, God calls a play that catches us both off guard. Now, in God's kindness, because sometimes when he calls a play, he knows that we'll say, I don't think I heard you right. Hold on. I don't think I heard you right. He told my husband separately and myself both. In our quiet time and driving down the road, we both sensed that we heard God saying, put your house on the market. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Hold on. Wait a second. I don't think I heard you right. Okay, you're going to have to probably tell me again. God, I don't know if you know, Coach, but the play that I thought you had called, that you called for us to move out and we did what you asked us to do. We're looking for another job. That play, wait a second. I just got the ball stolen from me and I was humiliated. There's a saying in basketball. Oh gosh, I hope I say this right. My daughter, if she was here, she would know the saying. It's you get your knees knocked out. No, your ankles. They break your ankles. Okay. Remember, I'm not a sports girl. I was just a sports mom. So it was like someone broke my ankles on the court. Like I was humiliated with the last call that the play that you had called. And now you're asking me to put my house on the market again in this small town that I live in. And then I've got to tell my husband, I think this is what I've heard from you. And no way, no way, no way. So I wrestled with this call that this play that he called out for several weeks. And I thought, my husband's going to think I'm crazy if I go to him and say, hey, let's put the house back on the market after we had just taken it down. So several weeks passed and my husband and I were having a conversation, and I don't remember if he said it first or if I did, but one of us said, hey, I know this sounds super crazy, but I really feel like God said for us to put our house back up on the market. Oh my gosh, me too. It was one of those moments. It was instant confirmation, the kind of confirmation we all pray about, like, God, give me a sign. It was like undoubtable a sign. This was a sign we were to put our house on the market. So that's what we did. So we called our real estate agent back and we began the process of putting our house back up on the market. So now the play is in motion. Remember, my coach, God the Father, called the play out, took me by surprise, but I know his voice and I trust him. So I began to put the play in motion. Things began to line up, but I knew that it wasn't time yet to release the ball. I knew there was a sense that I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm going to put my house on the market and I'm going to begin to dribble. I'm dribbling. The clock hasn't counted down yet to where the timer's going to beep and the game is over, but I knew I had to make it down the court to the other end. And I knew there was going to be a lot of defenders that tried to take the ball from me. So I'm dribbling. My whole family is dribbling. We knew God was going to bring us a job. Remember, we were putting our house on the market with no job. My husband had a job, but there was no job that we were going to. It was just put your house on the market. And we didn't know when we were going to sell. We didn't know where we were going to move, and we didn't know how it was going to happen. So in the meantime, we're dribbling as a family, and the pressure starts mounting. Friends are saying, what in the world are you doing? And we said, all we know is God said to put our house on the market. We want to move. We're trusting God. People that were innocent bystanders. Imagine the fans in the stand. Remember, I told you in an earlier podcast, I am the mom that's screaming in the stands, assuming I know that I'm the coach. Okay, so we have a stands full of people that are screaming, assuming they're the coach, telling us what to do and what not to do. And the pressure felt, oh gosh, really weighty. Our kids were wrestling because now we're putting our house on the market and they're saying, Mom and Dad, what are we going to do next? And our response is, I don't know. It was a great opportunity to teach our kids what it looks like to step out in faith and to take a risk. We're going to talk about that in the next podcast. But it was still weighty. There was a lot of pressure in the waiting. We're dribbling, we're waiting. We had to wait for the play to set up. Now, our house sold, and I wish that I could tell you that it was this easy transition, that our house sold and we got the perfect job at the perfect time. Our house sold and we moved into a rental, and we were in that rental 6 months, and the landlord came and said, hey, I'm going to put the house on the market. You have to move out. We moved into another rental. We were there for 4 months. We're dribbling. We're waiting for the setup, doing what we could do in the moment, defending the call, playing the game, moving forward, still moving down the court, but waiting for the ball to be released. We were in that rental for about 4 months, and then my husband, out of nowhere, got a call for a job opportunity in the state that we live in now. It was actually a greater promotion. We got to move back into the state where our family was. This was the place we knew we wanted to be. And God moved us to the perfect place at the perfect time. And we released the ball at the right time. And we scored. It was amazing. But we had to wait. We had to wait for the setup. We had to be patient. Listen, this word, wait for the setup, is a word that God is still speaking to me. So this conversation that's happening right now, friends, listen, it's something that I'm still growing in. Recently, I went on a walk, and I love going on walks in beautiful days when the weather is perfect. And I also enjoy going on walks, maybe when the weather's not perfect, but I've got to have a conversation with my best friend. One of those moments when life is a little bit crazy, I need a conversation and a one-on-one. So I put on my tennis shoes, and I've got on my walking clothes and my yoga pants, and I leave to go on a walk. And we have hills in our neighborhood, and I put earphones in, and I put on great worship music. And it's like I'm walking with Jesus, my best friend, and I'm spilling the tea, if you know what I mean. I'm telling him all of the details of my life. It's as if I was sitting with my best girlfriend, giving her the full scope of what's happening as if she had never heard it before. Listen, I love doing that with Jesus. He can handle it. And I know he knows. You know what? The Lord knows all things at all times, but man, it sure is good to have a conversation with him. So I'm walking in my neighborhood. I'm having this conversation, and I am telling him everything that's going on. I'm saying, listen, Jesus, listen to this. My daughter is trying to figure out if she's going to go back to college or not and pursue her career. And I think that's awesome, but there's finances at stake, and she's got to figure out where she's going to live. And she lives in another state. And is this going to work? Can she afford it? Can I afford it? Is this the right move for her? She's asking me to pray about it. I don't know. And my son, he's pursuing his career in flying, and he's doing another license, and he's finishing up college. And what is his next step going to be? And he's making major moves, and the pressure is mounting, and I have just stepped out of what I'm comfortable with. Okay, Jesus, listen, let's just talk about me. I've stepped out of what I'm comfortable with, and I feel like I'm floundering in this game of life. I don't feel like anything is coming my way. I don't feel like there's any opportunities. I've told people that I want to step out of my current job so that I can create time to travel. And Sure, Jesus, I'm traveling with my husband, but I want to travel with ministry, and nothing is happening, and I feel foolish. And let's just talk about my husband. He's in the middle of a job transition within his job, and sure, it's good, but there's a lot of pressure, and is it going to pan out? And I mean, people, emotions were high at my house. There was a season that emotions were high, and I am letting it out on this walk. I mean, I should have kept like a tracker on my Apple Watch. Like, I'm sure I was beating records, listening to music, having conversations. And this is when, out of nowhere, I see a picture of Madison on the court. This is what started this whole conversation that we've been having. I see the picture of her on the court dribbling the ball. I see the opponents coming, and they're putting pressure on her. And I see that moment. Man, I can close my eyes and picture it as if it was yesterday. I see that moment when she's going back and forth between the half court line and the top of the key, and she's defending the ball. And out of nowhere is where I hear the Lord say, wait for the setup. You're not waiting for the setup. My goodness, it changed everything for me. It changed the way I looked at my situation. It changed the way that I looked at my children's situation. And I realized, oh my goodness, I don't wait well. I don't wait well. I've never waited well. And listen, we live in an instant society. Okay, used to, we could say we live in a microwave society. Now, it's the Instapot, it's the air fryer, it is the, let's see, I wrote some things down because I knew that I would forget. Oh, it's the, obviously microwave, but it's the best of the best. It's Amazon being delivered overnight at your doorstep. Yes. It is the HEB where I live or the Walmart delivery. You can order it and they can drop it off that day. That's the way that we live. We live fast-paced, instant satisfaction, instant gratification, and we want it yesterday. Can I be real with you? I want my future yesterday. I'm in the same boat. I want it now and I wanted it yesterday. But I have to remember that there is endurance and there is discipline that is growing and that I'm creating and that is happening in my life as I'm waiting for the setup to take place. And I'm wondering in your life, I want you to stop and pause and evaluate in your life. Are you waiting for something? Are you waiting for a setup to happen and you just keep throwing the ball? You throw it to an opponent, throw it to an opponent. It's time to go. It's time to go. They throw it back and you're angry. Why is this back in my lap? Why can I not see what my future is? Why can I not see this future play out? And you're frustrated in the waiting. There is endurance that grows. There is discipline that is created in the waiting. We have got to learn to wait well. A no isn't a no, it's a not now. Waiting for the setup is a not now. It is not a no. In my mind, I believed, and it's something that I had to work through, that a not now equaled a no. And I get angry and frustrated and I wrestle with God and I say, God, but you said, so you're not trustworthy. And he's saying to me, even today, right now, my not now is not a no. It's a wait for the setup. Your not now is not a no. It is you waiting for the setup. I want you to hear that and let it sink in. You, friend, are waiting for the setup. See, we serve a God that has a playbook, like we've talked about in previous episodes, and he knows what we cannot see. He sees ahead of us. He sees beyond the current circumstance, but he takes into consideration our history and our present day. And he says, son and daughter, friend, wait for the setup. So now you ask, how in the world do I wait for the setup? How do I push off the defenders? How do I wait? I feel like someone is going to steal the ball from me. And I don't know, the adrenaline and the anxiety is pumping through my veins so greatly that I've got to pass the ball. Well, here's a few tips on how to wait well for the setup. First of all, remember your position. Your coach, God the Father, said, you, playmaker, I've given you authority in me. You are positioned as the playmaker of your game of life. Knowing that you are positioned gives you the authority to do what you need to do with the ball in the right time. Second thing, don't mistake your opposition as failure. See, oftentimes for me, maybe this isn't you, for me, I mistake hard times for failure. And I want to rush the play because I feel like I'm a failure. Maybe friends reach their goal before I reach my goal. Maybe the people in the stands are screaming, what are you doing? Pass the ball. Maybe life has thrown a curveball and it's the opposition that is trying to push me back and steal the ball. It's opposition. And in those moments, sometimes I can throw my hands up and say, it's over. I must be a failure. And instead of the opposition stealing the ball, I just willingly hand it over and say, I quit. Opposition is not your failure. You are waiting for the setup. Here's another tip. Don't panic. So much easier said than done, right? Don't panic. I remember when Madison was on the court and she would get flustered. I could see as her mom sitting in the stands, I could see the look on her face. I could see her posture. I could see the panic in her eyes. Maybe the coach called a play and she didn't know what the play was. Maybe she knew what the play was going to be and knew what was required of her. There was a particular play that sometimes that her coach would call. And I knew there was one team that I remember they were playing, and every time this play was called and Madison got right over the half court line, they would double up on her. And she knew what was going to happen, and I could see the look in her eyes. And when she would get flustered, when she would get nervous or anxious or overwhelmed, that is when the ball would be stolen from her. Friends, don't panic. Okay, listen, can I stop and give myself a pep talk for a minute? Remember, we're in this thing together. Natalie, don't panic. Don't panic. Don't panic. The play is being set up. Take a deep breath and know that you are the playmaker of your story. Natalie, I'm the playmaker of my story, and I have a coach that would not steer me wrong. Don't panic. Okay, here's the final thing. Return to joy. When you have got the ball in your hand of life and maybe God has called a play and you feel uncertain, or maybe it's a dream that you have had that you're striving towards and you're working towards. And sometimes in the waiting, we can lose our joy. I think about the scripture, hope deferred makes a heart sick, but a dream fulfilled is the spring of life. There is fulfillment in the call of God on your life. Don't panic. Return to joy. There's a quote I want to read to you out of a book called Rare Leadership. If you haven't read it and you're leading people, you should read it. It's really good. But it says, a rare leader returns to joy, and they can experience upsetting emotions, but recover quickly. And this helps others recover quickly. And this helps others, your family, your friends, return to joy from various negative emotions. See, a rare leader endures hardship well, suffers well. See, suffering well as Jesus did, because Jesus is the ultimate model of maturity in facing suffering. Wow. Returning to joy. If Jesus can do it, I can do it. Why? Because he is in me and I am in him. Remember your position. So how do I return to joy? Well, first of all, you need to start today. For some of us, we can say, I've never returned to joy in the waiting. Not a thing. I've never done it. I'm anxious and I'm overwhelmed until I see the other side. Let me encourage you. Start today. Return to joy, and this is how you do it. You're going to grow in discipline by taking your thoughts captive. That's what the word says. Take your thoughts captive and bring them into obedience in Christ. You're going to build the muscle of endurance by not running away. Do not run away from waiting. Do not run because you're waiting for the setup. Listen, nothing happens automatically, and returning to joy easily happens once we've created discipline and endurance and we are pursuing this element of growth in our life. It gets easier and easier. Return to joy. Okay, this isn't your first time that you've had to wait. This is not my first time that I have had to wait for the setup to happen in my life. So I want you to think back to a time that you've had to wait for the setup to happen? When is a time that you waited? Maybe you didn't wait well, maybe you just waited, but God showed up and showed out in areas of your life, and you can look back and say, wow, it was better than I can imagine. I want you to remember back when there was a time that you waited and you received a better job than you could have imagined, that the man of your dreams swooped you off your feet, that the woman, this beautiful woman that you've only dreamed of, showed up on your doorstep. You waited well. Maybe it was the business that you started that you thought, there's no way that this can thrive. The doors are going to close. But you heard the call, you heard the play, and you waited for the setup, and now you're making a profit. Okay, picture yourself on the court. You've heard the coach call out the play. What is the play that your coach has called out? What are you doing now? The ball is in your hand, you're dribbling, you're defending, you're keeping your eyes forward on the court. You're keeping watch over the play. The play is being set up. Playmaker, be confident. Hold steady. The play is coming together.